You're probably sitting there wondering if you should spend your hard-earned cash on a projector that ends up gathering dust in a closet, or worse, one that looks great on paper, but just can't hold up when you actually fire it up for movie night or a business presentation. I get that. The market is flooded with flashy specs and glossy ads, and the last thing you want is to throw money at a piece of equipment that doesn't fit your space, your lighting, or your budget. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through why the Panasonic VMZ50 might be the sweet spot for some, and why it could be a miss for others, so you can decide without the guesswork. First off, let's talk about the kind of environment where a projector actually shines literally. The VMZ50 puts out 5,000 lumens, which is a solid amount of light for a room that isn't pitch black. If you've got a dedicated home theater room with blackout curtains, you'll be more than comfortable with that brightness. But it also means you can pull the same unit into a bright conference room or a classroom with a few lights left on and still see a clear, vivid image. That flexibility is a real practical strength, because you won't have to rewire or add expensive ambient light rejecting screens just to get decent contrast. Speaking of contrast, Panasonic claims a 3:0:0:0:0:0:1 ratio. In real-world terms, that translates to deeper blacks and brighter whites when you're watching a dark thriller or a nature documentary. I've seen a comparable setup where the image held detail in shadowed scenes without looking washed out, even with a ceiling-mounted lamp. The result is a picture that feels more like a TV you're looking at from a distance, rather than a washed-out slide on a wall. Resolution is another area where the VMZ50 pulls ahead of a lot of budget options. The native 1920x120 ModeWUXGA panel gives you a little extra vertical real estate over a standard 1080p display. For gamers, that extra 120 lines can make the difference between a crisp HUD and a slightly blurry one, especially when you're sitting close. For office users, spreadsheets and PowerPoint slides benefit from that added vertical space, reducing the need to scroll. And because it's an LCD engine, you won't be dealing with the rainbow effect that can bother some people with DLP projectors. Now, the lamp life. Panasonic rates this unit at 20,000 hours in normal mode. Do the math. If you run it for 4 hours a day, you're looking at over 13 years before the lamp needs a replacement. That's a huge value proposition, because you're not constantly budgeting for a new bulb. It also means the unit is designed for heavy, day-in day-out usage, which is exactly what schools, small businesses, or a family that watches movies every weekend need. Connectivity is straightforward: HDMI for your laptop, gaming console, or streaming stick, and a USB port that can read media files directly. That simplicity cuts down on the cable clutter you often see with high-end projectors that require separate adapters or signal converters. You can plug a USB flash drive full of movies and hit play, or connect a laptop for a quick slide deck, and you're good to go. All these strengths make the VMZ50 a strong contender for 3 main buyer groups. First, small to medium-sized venues. Think a home theater that's not a dedicated media room, a conference room that sees a few presentations a week, or a classroom that needs a reliable image for lessons. Second, users who value long-term cost of ownership. The long lamp life, combined with the lack of a pricey laser light source, keeps ongoing expenses low. Third, anyone who wants a balance of brightness and image quality without stepping into the premium tier that often demands a larger upfront investment. On the flip side, there are a few practical trade-offs you should be aware of before you click Add to Cart. The VMZ50 is an LCD projector, which generally means the blacks won't be as deep as a high-end laser or DLP unit that uses a dedicated blackframe technology. In a room that can't be fully darkened, you might notice a slight grayish halo in very dark scenes. That's not a deal-breaker for most, but if you're an absolute cinephile who demands the darkest possible black, you might look elsewhere. Weight and size are another consideration. This model isn't a pocket-sized Pico projector you can toss on a backpack. It's designed to be ceiling-mounted or placed on a sturdy table with a proper ventilation space. If you need a unit you can carry to different client sites daily, you'll find it a bit cumbersome. The fan can be audible at lower brightness settings, so if you're planning a quiet movie night, you'll probably want to crank the brightness up a notch to push the fan into a higher, less noticeable speed. Finally, while the 5000 lumen rating is impressive, it's still dependent on a decent screen.